If you watched my previous video, you know that I put this 95 horsepower cylinder kit on my Polaris here. And you might also be wondering why there was no follow-up riding video with the cylinder kit. And that would be because I promptly blew this thing up about 100 feet into the dunes. Ouch. And to the guy in the comments who said that I was way too lean, you were correct, and evidently I can't tune Electron. So, with that being said, I do have a plan to move forward because this thing actually needs to be recoated, the Nicosil does, and I don't really feel like paying for it right now. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a stock cylinder that I have and I'm going to port it much more aggressive than our previous setup. And hopefully then we will still have a faster overall package. And so I'm going to be showing you exactly how I'm porting this cylinder, and then we've got a couple other small mods we need to do. So with that being said, let's get into it. So first things first, I'm going to get this exhaust out of the way just because obviously we need it out of the way. And honestly, I think it's going to be such a pain to get it off of here because it's got like 800 springs holding it. Also, you might notice that I already have this thing pretty much disassembled. And that is because I didn't want to make a video where I just assembled this thing and then immediately took it back apart again because I figured that'd be kind of boring. So I wanted to wait till I had some other mods to do. Stinger section out of the way. Now I've just got to remember how exactly I got this thing in here. It's probably like that. There we go. And I know this is going to be disappointing for some of you guys, but we are not going to be running the 48mm Electron. Quite a bummer, I know, but can't get it to work apparently, and I don't feel like blowing up any more cylinders. And then we also are going to have to figure out what we're going to put in place of the fuel pump, because I don't think I have enough fuel line to bridge that gap. Or maybe I do. Actually, I think I do. So I guess let's take the fuel pump off. Also, I'm pretty sure I said it last video, but to my friend Carl, I'm extremely grateful because he's basically the only reason I was able to get this thing running last video, because I was missing so many parts and he was kind enough to let me use them. So now I can give them back. Now I just need to pull our vacuum hose off and it's free. So now let's go ahead. I gotta pull this coolant hose off because in my excitement to get the Powermax running, I cut it off, or I guess I shortened it. Get this out of the way. Oh man. We do have a decent amount of aluminum here on the head. And as you can tell by that plug color, this thing was way too lean. Alright, now we can go ahead and pull this cylinder off of here. Oh. Glad I grabbed that drain pan, even though it caught like none of it. Ouch. And our Nicosil is all torn up there. So now this thing should just come right off. gonna do. Do I have to pull the intake? Dang, I have to pull the intake, I guess. There we go. Well, there you can see why our cylinder can't be reused. So, oh well. Here's a better look at our piston here. I think it's destroyed. Let me pull it out and get you a better look. There's the piston. Boy, is it cooked. So now that we got the Powermax out of the way, let's go ahead and go port this cylinder and see how it turns out. All right, I've got my headlamp on so that maybe you guys can see what I'm doing. So basically I always start with the transfers first because it's pretty hard to come back from messing up your transfers as far as porting a cylinder. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the transfers to 55 millimeters from the deck, leaving the stock angles. I've got one cylinder off to get dynoed right now with a different angle on the transfers, but I don't have any confirmation on that yet, so I'm gonna try something else in the meantime, just for fun. So, anyways, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my calipers, and I've got them set at 55 millimeters. I'm gonna come in here. It's a lot easier to see it when the cylinder's upside down, which I'll show you here in a second. So I'll hold it like that, square against the deck, and then I'll actually flip it over like this while I'm actually cutting, so that way I can see where the actual end of the caliper is when I'm cutting, like just when I'm checking. But basically just makes it a little bit easier. So I'm gonna cut those in real fast, and then I'll catch back up with you whenever we're on to the next thing. So I just got done doing my rough cuts on the A port there, and it's about at 54 0.6 millimeters more or less. And so this is the burr that I do my rough cuts with, just because I'm not removing that much material. I'm not using a hogging bit or anything like that. But now I'm going to switch to a smaller bit, which is right here, and I'm going to work on my corners and try and get them a little bit sharper and get the bottoms of the corners like down there, get them brought up to the same height. Okay, I did flash this time instead of my headlamps because I think you'll be able to see it better. But that's the first port done. So looking pretty decent. I left the corner closest to the exhaust port a little bit round just because they normally have like a little defect from the factory. I guess whenever they like deburr them, where it's like, you just have to look at your cylinder. You'll know what I'm talking about. But I normally have to get back up in there. Jeez, if I could hold the cylinder, because there's normally like some bumps and stuff, just to make sure that back transfer, like the back of the transfer stream, flows smoothly. But yep, that's one port. So now I just need to go and do all the rest of them, including the boost ports. I'll put all of my transfers at the same height. So I'm gonna get to doing that, and then I'll catch back up with you soon. All right, I kind of forgot to record, but I did cut the exhaust port. So basically all I did was those two lines on either side of it that's measured out to 70% of the bore, which if you don't know how to measure that, I have a video on that. But anyways, just do that, round it off, and that's pretty much it. I would definitely make yourself like a template to use so you don't do anything crazy. But anyways, now I'm gonna go ahead and start polishing this thing up, and then I'll show you the finished product. Also, I forgot to mention, I set the exhaust 34.5 millimeters from the deck. So it's about 3.1 millimeters higher than stock. Given there is some variation in stock port heights, so that's why we do it from the deck, not from you know, plus whatever off of your port height. Just another thing I've learned from porting. So, all right, I got the exhaust port polished up, and I put my chamfer on it. You see it down low on the bottom. And then on the top there. So now I'm gonna start working on the intake. I put my Dicam on already, which here, you'll probably be able to see it better if I flip it over. Then I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out. And then with this, if you really don't wanna if you wanna keep it simple, honestly, I'd buy the Ken O'Connor's templates just for your intake side. The exhaust, I wouldn't mess with that, but on the intake, theirs is pretty good. This is a different design than the Ken O'Connor's intake, but anyways, it's pretty simple. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. All right, so there is one side of the intake pretty much finished. Just need to clean it up a little bit more, but I did want to show you just one side done, just so you can get an idea for how much we're removing. It's pretty crazy, but let me show you from the actual intake side. It's a decent amount bigger. All right, I got the intake finished up. I cut it. You know, honestly, the intake kind of sucks the most because it takes so long because you're removing so much material, but way bigger than stock, so it should flow quite a bit more. I normally don't do much on the intake bridge. I just kind of round it out. Don't ever do a knife edge because that'll hurt your flow. But anyway, so what I'm gonna do next is probably the most controversial thing that I do. So if you look down in between the liner and the actual aluminum casting, there's always a huge gap. That'll probably, which side is worse? I can't get my camera in there angled right, but basically there's a gap underneath there where there'll just be a lack of aluminum. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stuff it with JB Weld, which I know sounds crazy, but just trust me, it works, all right? And then I'm gonna shave it down smooth whenever I do the Boysen ports, because the Boysens kind of connect in right there, so it's all kind of one cut. So I'm gonna put the JB Weld in and let it cure for I don't know, 24 hours probably, and then I'll start working on the Boysen ports. All right, so there's our JB Weld in there, and I know it looks kind of jank, but trust, it'll look really good once we actually cut it out of there. So I'm gonna let this cure up now, and we'll go ahead and start cutting the Boysen ports. Well, that's pretty much it on the intake side of things. I opened it up pretty good. So I guess that's everything. We can put this thing in, show you the transfer ports. Looking pretty good. We're gonna coat this thing with oil just overnight to keep it from flash rusting like it's currently trying to do. Yeah, oh yeah, there's our transfer ducts. They look good. You can see where the JB Weld filled in those holes. And here's the other side. Looks pretty good, if I do say so myself. So, let's get this thing on there. So now that everything is all prepped up, I did do one kind of cool thing this time. So I saw one of my friends, he drilled holes for his intake bridge to oil it because they normally wear pretty bad right here. So I went ahead and did the same thing because his piston looked brand new after some runtime. So I did the same thing, and hopefully it helps keep this piston alive a little longer. Let's go ahead and put our piston in place. And I always put one of the circlips in first, just so I don't have to put one of them in while the piston is installed, because it's super annoying. Put them in. And so next, putting some paper towels in the bottom end to keep our clip from potentially falling in. Hopefully. There we go. And then always double check to make sure everything is fully seated. And we are. And now we can install our super cool ported cylinder. And one thing you might notice is that I'm not running longer studs in the front. And that is because this already is a fresh bore and I don't want to send it off to get braced. So I'm about to really embarrass myself here. And boy, I'm telling you guys, this is ugly. But there's this old tech called a girdle, and you'll see what it is, but basically you have to clearance the fins up here. And normally you would use like a drill press or a mill to clearance them, but I have neither of those. So I just very crudely did it with a porting bit, and it looks like that. So yeah, don't flame me too much. But anyways, we can go ahead and put our cylinder on. Actually, we should go ahead and put our rings on first. That's an important one. All right. So now our piston rings are installed. Make sure our gaps are lined up with the pins. And they are now. There we go. And then I normally put just a little extra oil in there, just to make sure everything is lubricated. I just gently turn it over. So you actually can run, with the kit that I have, you can run a girdle front and rear. But the front ears, the thin ones that are normally braced, are the ones that break off. So to avoid making the cylinder any uglier than it already is, I only cut the fronts. So the way this works is we take this special nut here, and you can see it's a smaller diameter on top. So basically, apparently you have to do this like the extended studs. Put on the nut first. All right, let's get this thing started on there. And as it lowers down, we can drop the cylinder. I think I might have to take this whole cylinder back off. Gotta change out my studs. Apparently the Powermax uses different front studs too, which I guess I really should have seen coming, but that's on me. All right, I've got the cylinder reinstalled with the correct hardware this time. So now we can go ahead and torque it down, and then I'll show you this billet head that goes with the girdle kit. All right, those are not 14s. All right, well, I have literally no clue where my other crow's foot attachments are. So these might just be getting cranked down. Click. Click. All right, so now we have the star of the show, the billet head from HPD. So basically, these 6 bolts are our head bolts, and then these additional 4 are gonna hold long bolts that bolt into that bolt over there, or that like adapter nut. So it's pretty cool. I'm gonna smack some O-rings on this thing. Actually, I'm gonna go wash it first. Then we go ahead and put it on. You might notice that things are a little bit more put together than last time you saw the top end. So let me explain to you what went down. So basically the O-rings that go into that billet head that actually work as like the head gasket, they did not fit. They were like way too small. I guess they like dried and shrank up over the years. So anyways, what I did, I soaked them in oil and then basically just put them on a stretched out surface for like 24 hours. And anyways, I came back and they were just like barely staining. They kept popping out. And so I tried holding them in place with some like red grease, as you'll see right there. And anyways, I was gonna just like test fit it to see if the red grease would hold them in place while I put the head on. And lo and behold, the first time I tried it, they stayed on. And so anyways, I don't want to take this thing back off because I don't know if I'm able to get them back on again. And I got really lucky getting them on that first time. So anyways, with that being said, the head is on. And I also went ahead and tossed the girdle bolt so you can see how that works. Basically, it transfers the load to like the rest of the cylinder, so it's not just all on that head right, or that little ear right there. So kind of an interesting piece of technology. Not really worth doing nowadays when Ron at CoreFab can brace your cylinder for as good of a price as he does. So I wouldn't waste your time trying to find a kit like this when you can just send it to him. But it is cool nonetheless. So I just realized I'm gonna have to turn this fitting now. Oh my gosh. All right, let me get that fixed. So what I do when I need to move a fitting like this is I basically just grab my torch and then heat it up and spin it. So hopefully that works. But you don't want to get this one too hot because your water pump seals are back there, and that would be pretty unfortunate to have those fail on you. But it's like my friend Carl always says, if your water pump seals are leaking, you can always put JB Weld on the weep hole. Hopefully that is enough. And it is. Sweet. First try. I'll take it. So now we can put our little connector in here. Which these are always kind of annoying. Sweet. Now I can tighten those up. And our top end is pretty much on there. Also got our temperature sensor in here. I don't run a temperature gauge or anything like that, so just gonna throw one in there just so we're not leaking everywhere. Alright, I also threw some thread tape on our coolant inlet. I'm gonna assume that's probably good right there. I don't know. Seems like it's out of the way of the spark plug. Yeah, it's like right in the way of the spark plug. Gotta come over some more. All right, next up, I'm gonna go ahead and put the reeds on. And we do actually have one kind of cool thing that my friend has let me borrow. It is a Boyson rad valve. So, should be better than stock. Apparently they're not quite as good as the V-Force reeds, but I'm not complaining. I'll take anything. All right, my camera did cut off for some reason, but we got the intake bolted on there. And I do have one more interesting addition. So I'm going from the PWK to this TM38. So the reason I'm doing that is because the PWK rests on the transmission case right here, and basically it was causing it to leak. And normally I'm pretty hesitant to listen to other people telling me not to do stuff as far as mods go, but I will say that a lot of people were right on that one. And it was pretty annoying. So, TM carb. TMXs have the lean mid-range. TMs are supposedly better. I guess we'll find out. And it fits in there extremely nicely. It's like it was made for it. So easy. I'm gonna get our clamp on there, just so this thing doesn't go anywhere. And then the way that I got this to fit in my boot is, because this is a different boot than I was using, I did the same thing I did with the PWK, so I just heated up the boot and then it fit in fine. All right, and that carb is not going anywhere. So I guess what I need to do now is put coolant in and see if it's gonna pour everywhere because of maybe a pinch to O-ring, which I hope does not happen. All of our coolant should be good here. Got my NASCAR pitcher here with some water in it. I don't see any leaks. As awesome as the race pipes are, kind of a pain to put on sometimes. Well, I guess the camera cut off like as soon as I started putting the exhaust on. I'm sorry, it's hot out, so my equipment keeps overheating. But anyways, it's on there. So all I need to do is put on the throttle, toss on the gas tank, and then we can fire it up once it's not 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'll see you whenever it's daytime and we're ready to start this thing. All right, let's see if we can get this thing to start. I didn't put the fuel tank on or anything. I just put some fuel into the carburetor bowl with a syringe because I don't feel like putting the tank on quite yet. So, let's see what happens. It runs. Well, now that we know this thing runs, I gotta start speed run getting this thing together because I have about 12 hours between when I leave the dunes and when I actually need to upload this video. So I'm gonna get the plastics and the tank and everything on there, and then I'll catch back up with you whenever we're ready to, I guess, go to the dunes. Of course, you know I can't skip the most important step, which is of course washing it so I look cool out there. But we still have a little bit more to do, so I'll load this thing up and take it over to Carl's house so I can use his welder. All right, I'm over at my friend Carl's place, as you can tell by all the cool machines. And you might notice that my little like foot protector down here is not on, and that's because it tore off. So the last thing I had to do was do a really ugly weld on this thing to keep it back together. So now we can put that thing back on there and we should be good to go. Oh, socket doesn't fit.
What?
It's
It's
too
a
big.
half inch.
Yeah, it's too big, like the socket is.
Just do your job and take the thing off.
Jeez.
Sorry you don't have an electric ratchet. I know that's.
I don't know. It's like living in poverty over
Yeah,
here.
right.
That's sick.
Barely misses the welds.
Still fits.
Barely misses the welds.
All this out anyway because it's taking you too damn long to put this thing on.
Yeah, I don't know why it's
Everybody's
not.
clicked off the video now.
I don't know why the dang bolt's not starting. Well, that's gotta be good enough.
That's pretty good. I call that a win.
Pretty solid.
Solid.
I did want to remind you guys about our Polaris 2-stroke meetup, October 15th through 18th. So if you have a Polaris 2-stroke or you want to come see some cool Polaris 2-strokes, you should definitely come out because we're really open for a high turnout. We've got giveaways and show and shine and hopefully some more events coming here soon. Also, you guys should definitely join as channel members because these videos are very expensive to make and I make zero money from doing them. So that would really help me out. It would help me put out more content. So just something for you to consider. With that being said, that is all I have for you today. I will be at the dunes today because I'm uploading this in like not very many hours because it's like the middle of the night right now. But I'll be at the dunes, so if you see me out there, say hi. And if you did enjoy the video, please like and comment. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And you should definitely subscribe because I'm closing in on 1,000 subscribers and that'd be super cool. So that's all I have for you and I hope to see you in the next one.